Game fact time. Donkey Kong's creation was basically a last-minute act. When Nintendo originally was making the game we know now as Donkey Kong, it was actually supposed to be a Popeye game. Mario would have been Popeye, Bluto would have been the villain, and the goal would have been to save Popeye's girlfriend Olive Oyl. Although they had applied for the license, it was rejected near the game's completion, so they had to scramble to make new characters to replace them. And so Donkey Kong was born. This is actually also the first appearance of Pauline, so if it wasn't for Popeye's owner saying no, then we never would have gotten our beloved ape. Game fact time. When Minecraft was released for purchase, it made so much money that PayPal actually froze Notch's account because they thought that the money could have come from illegal means. Notch had to prove that the money came from his video game, and not from drugs or any other bad activities, before they released the money to him. This actually led to PayPal having to change their policies, as it wasn't the first game affected by this. Poor guy had to prove that he was breaking blocks instead of breaking bad. Game fact time. While Mega Man 2 is considered one of the best NES games, it almost didn't happen. Though the first Mega Man was well received,
that's pretty good.
It did not sell well enough for Capcom to invest in a sequel.
Oh, fuck. I can't believe you've done this.
Despite this, the dev team were very passionate, and so made a build in their own free time and using assets modded from the original. Through sheer determination, they created a full game with no new resources, and it was such a smash hit that Capcom acknowledged their mistake and gave a bunch of funding for future Mega Man games. It's crazy to think that one of Capcom's biggest legacies was almost completely erased. Game fact time. Resident Evil has had many successful handheld titles, like Deadly Silence and Revelations. However, there was actually supposed to be a port of the original title for the Game Boy Color. Capcom approached a company called HotGen and asked them to recreate the original game as close as they could for the Game Boy Color, and was looking for a 1999 release.
What is it?
They actually got very far in development before Capcom sadly pulled the plug, saying they were not confident that it would make consumers happy. Amazingly enough, it was actually so far in development that you can find a ROM emulation online on websites like romsfun.com. But fair warning, as they are prototypes, so be sure to expect a buggy but unique experience. Game fact time. In the original Resident Evil game, there was going to be a member of STARS who was an expert with a mortar launcher. However, he was removed from the final version because it did not really make sense. Actually, a few characters had their roles changed, including Forrest, who was actually more of an engineer instead of a sniper, which is why he is found holding a grenade launcher instead of a sniper rifle.
Huh?
I imagine the first zombie reveal would have gone quite differently if the mortar guy was in charge. Game fact time. Tetris has been ported to the most different video game consoles, ranging from the NES and PlayStation to even things like the iPod and Virtual Boy. There have been over 70 unique systems overall.
Objection!
However, if you were to include unofficial systems, then this award would actually go to Doom, due to a dedicated fanbase that try to fit Doom onto anything, including microwaves and pregnancy tests. There are so many different things that Doom has been ported to. There is a dedicated website called canitrundoom.org to catalog every attempt. Game fact time. Final Fantasy VIII, while divisive at release, is now beloved by the RPG playing community, but the original version that came out for America and Europe is actually missing a key piece of gameplay. There was a side game called Chocobo World that was played on the Japanese-only Pocket Station, an accessory that could hold game data and also play some minigames. For Final Fantasy VIII, you could play as a chocobo and travel the field, fight enemies, and even find very rare stuff, including items that could help make the ultimate weapons. Interestingly enough, it was actually included in the original PC release for Europe and North America, so you can play it there, but it was removed entirely for the remastered version. Don't worry though, as now, the items that were found in this game can now be found by the good boy Angelo with his search ability. Game fact time. The Game Boy was a massive success and breakthrough in gaming, allowing players to play on the go. But why was the screen's background green? Well, at the time, backlit screens for something that small were not really a thing, and also very expensive to mass produce, so they needed a color to contrast the black pixels. While you would assume white would be the obvious choice, playtests showed that after a while the sharp contrast would cause headaches and eye strain, so they used green. It also helped give it a comforting look, as it resembled the dot matrix look that was very popular in the 80s, which helped establish that iconic look that we all know and love. Game fact time. When Half-Life came out in 1998, it broke the record for the best-selling PC game of all time, selling a massive 8 million copies over a few years. While this is very impressive, what is even more amazing is the amount of games that started their life as a mod within this game. Counter-Strike started out as a mod before it became so popular that it became its own franchise. This is also true for Team Fortress, and even Gary's mod. They are just a few examples of amazing titles coming from the blueprint of Half-Life. It is really cool seeing a great game spawn, whole new games from the creativity of the players. Game fact time. The action RPG Yakuza series mostly takes place in the fictional Tokyo district of Kamurocho, which is densely packed with things to do.
Oh yeah!
But did you know that this area is actually closely based on the real area in Tokyo, called Kabukicho, which, just like the game series, is Tokyo's biggest entertainment and red light district. In fact, some landmarks and even shops are exactly where they would be in both areas, which is true dedication to the source material. The Yakuza series is actually well known for also including real-life actors and even items in their series to really boost the immersion. A word of caution, however, as though you won't run into fights every 5 steps, the real area has been known to have crime issues. Game fact time. When Sega was founded in 1940 in Hawaii, they actually made slot machines that were sold to American army bases to keep soldiers entertained. They had to change where they sold their machines in the 1950s due to a new law that banned slot machines in army bases. So they moved to Japan, and then in the 60s, they switched to making video games with their first successful arcade game launching in 1966 called Periscope. Then in 1983, they released their first console called the SG-1000, which sold very well in Japan. And in 1985, they brought it to America and Europe under the new name Master System. From there, they had plenty of success until the late 90s. Last little bit, the name Sega is actually a portmanteau of the words service games. Just smash them together and boom. Sega! Game fact time. Games like Hades, The Binding of Isaac, and Enter the Gungeon are part of a genre called roguelikes. But where does this term actually come from? Well, it comes from a game called Rogue back in the 1980s. Though it didn't necessarily invent the genre, it was considered revolutionary enough for it to claim the title. But even what determines a roguelike can be hard to define, but the most common features are these.
1,
Death is permanent. If you die, it's back to the start, but some allow for you to get a bit stronger.
2,
Procedurally generated maps, random to a large extent, but still working together.
3,
An emphasis on reaching an endpoint in order to win the game, normally with features being unlocked for reaching certain states. Of course, there will be a lot of differences around roguelikes, but that is just what makes them fun games to play. Game fact time. Sonic Boom is considered one of the worst Sonic games in the series. However, when development started, it was actually a very different game. Developed by Big Red Button, the game was originally supposed to be the new origin story of Sonic, including him meeting his key friends for the first time and them growing close together. The game was also made with 4-player co-op in mind, feature all kinds of puzzles and combat challenges, and a heavy focus on multiplayer. Then despite all the hard work, Sega Japan decided to scrap the story because they might want to do it themselves sometime. They then forced the game to become a Wii U exclusive, so they had to move to a different engine, and a lot of stuff, including 4-player co-op, had to go right in the bin. So that's why the game is sadly like it is. Game fact time. Metal Gear Solid has a very famous fourth wall break with Psycho Mantis commenting on how you like to play certain games.
Oh, you like Suikoden.
But how does he do it? Well, while the cutscene is playing out, the game is having a sneaky peek into your memory card and looking for other Konami games like Castlevania, Azure Knights, or Vandal Hearts. If you have any of these games, then it will ping a value, so he knows what line to use.
You like Castlevania, don't you?
He will also check your Metal Gear save file and see how often you have saved, or how long you have been playing, and make a remark about that too. This is also true for the GameCube remake, talking about games like Super Smash Bros. And Eternal Darkness. Still creeped me out as a kid though. Game fact time. Isaac Clarke from Dead Space is named after 2 famous sci-fi authors. Isaac Asimov, who is best known for writing I, Robot, the book that created the 3 laws of robotics that became a template for dozens of sci-fi series, still going today, and Arthur C. Clarke, who among many other books wrote 2001, A Space Odyssey that was adapted into the movie masterpiece directed by Stanley Kubrick. Game fact time. Although there were over 200 games on the PlayStation 1 that sold over 1 million copies, only 2 managed to break through the 10 million landmark. These were the realistic racing game Gran Turismo with 10.8 million, and the legendary RPG Final Fantasy VII with 10.2 million. Strangely enough, these franchises also hold the number 3 and 4 spot, with Final Fantasy VIII with 9.6 million, and Gran Turismo 2 with 9.3 million copies, proving that these series were not going anywhere. Game fact time. The House of the Dead series is well known for its fast-paced arcade gameplay. Now the second, third, and fourth games have been ported to multiple consoles over the years. So why is it that the original game has never seen another port since 1997? Well, during the late 90s, there was a lot of things happening in Sega, and a lot of teams and offices got moved around or closed. And so a lot of important data was being moved from place to place. And somehow all of the source files for the original House of the Dead were lost in the shuffle. An entire game just poofed out of existence. That is why we have not seen anything from the original until a full remake had to be built from ground up, basically brought back from the dead. Game fact time. Hollow Knight Silksong has finally released and is wowing gamers worldwide with its action gameplay and unique art look. But did you know that the series actually began as an entry for a game jam? Team Cherry submitted a game called Hungry Knight for a well-known game jam series called Ludum Dare in 2013, featuring a very similar hero and enemies. Although it didn't actually do well, then the devs really liked the premise, and so they kept working on it until the smash hit. Hollow Knight was born.
But wait! There's more!
Other notable games from Ludum Dare include the rhythm game, Friday Night Funkin', and the indie horror game Baldi's Basics. You would be surprised how many gaming titans started off from humble origins.
That's me!
Game fact time. Capcom has some of the best-selling games of all time, but who takes the crown as the king of Capcom when it comes to the best-selling game? Well, third place goes to the remake of Resident Evil 2 at a very impressive 15.8 million copies sold. Surprisingly enough, this is actually the best-selling Resident Evil title to date. Second place goes to Monster Hunter Rise, that came out in 2021 with a seriously strong 17.5 million copies. But running away with the #1 spot is actually Monster Hunter World, with an amazing 21.7 million copies worldwide. This is actually not including the definitive Iceborne edition. If we did, it would jump up to 28.8 million. Not only is this Capcom's best-selling game, but also the 47th best-selling game of all time. Game fact time. The Unity engine has a bit of a reputation for being used to churn out countless awful games that flood the Steam and Nintendo shop.
What the fuck?
But you would be surprised that some amazing games have actually been made with it too. Cuphead The Run and Gun Smash Hit was made in the Unity engine. Another example would be Pokemon Go. Even some great multiplayer games such as Among Us and Fall Guys were made using Unity. There are many more examples out there, so remember it isn't the tools but the people who use them that determine the quality.